Are you a high school basketball player that at the beginning of the summer said, this is the summer. This is the summer that I dedicate myself to my basketball development. That I become that smart, confident player that's going to make next season the best season ever. That I make that team, that I get that playing time, that I become a starter, that I just have the greatest season ever. Well, today I'm going to break down 5 areas of your game that you should be working on this summer, and you should be dedicating time towards each one of these areas of your game. So this is going to be an opportunity to do a little bit of a personal inventory and see what might be missing in your basketball development this offseason. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So this week we are talking about your summer and what you've been doing with your summer and what maybe you can do with the rest of the summer. And I'm going to break down, like I mentioned, 5 areas of your game you should be dedicating time towards. And when I say dedicating time, I mean carving out a block of time that's just specific to that area of your game development. And maybe you're doing all these things. This is a great reminder. Maybe you're missing a couple. Maybe the summer just hasn't been, meeting up to your expectations of what you said you wanted to do at the beginning of the summer. But this is a great time for a reset. We are in July 4th weekend, and hopefully you're having a blast. Hopefully you're spending time with family and friends and taking a break and really having a great weekend. But it's also a great time for reflection, a little bit of self-evaluation. And next week, you can kind of do a reset. And if the beginning of your summer wasn't what you thought it should be, and it really hadn't dedicated yourself to your basketball development, doesn't mean the second part of the summer can't be. So it's a great time for a reset, and there's no shame, there's no problem. We all do it. We all have great expectations. We get started and we just don't meet our own expectations, but there's always time to reset. So that's what we're going to do, is cover those 5 areas of the game. Now, before I get into each area of the game that you should be dedicating time to, I'd love to give a free gift just for spending time with me today. And you must be a dedicated player. You're spending time with me. If it's the 4th of July weekend, you're spending time watching basketball videos, that's awesome. But this free gift is a checklist of skills. If you want to be one of those smart, confident players that coaches love, be sure to download this checklist, because these skills are skills that coaches love to see in players. And they're 8 intangible skills that, as I mentioned, they are in this checklist form, but I also give you ways that you can show these skills off to coaches. So you can download it by scanning the QR code below. I'll put a link in the description below, or you can simply go to hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. Again, it's hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles, and I'll get you that free gift. So we're going to keep it pretty quick today. We're going to cover these 5 areas and dedicating time to 5 areas. And I want you to look at these 5 areas and really evaluate, what have I done so far, and do I really dedicate time? Because you might be spending a lot of time on your basketball development. Like I mentioned, you might just be going to practices, going to AAU tournaments, things of that nature, thinking you're spending a lot of time on your development, but you really need to evaluate what dedicated time and what areas of your game you're developing. So the first area is skill development. And what I want you to do with skill development, you can break the skill development down into kind of different areas as well. But this is where you're working on your shooting, your ball handling, including passing and catching, and your defense. Yes, working on your defense as a skill development. Okay? So this is where you're doing your form shooting, your shooting drills, your finishing drills, things of that nature. You're actually planning it out. I did a few weeks back, I did a video on how to make your shooting workout more effective. But you can also separate out time and you should separate out time for ball handling. Maybe that's 2-ball dribbling drills, whether it's stationary or whether it's on the move. Passing and catching. If you can get a parent, a brother, a sister, a teammate, a friend to do some passing and catching with you. Very underrated skill in developing that fundamental skill of passing and catching. In defense, working on your defensive stance, working on closing out, working on your footwork. So the first area that you need to carve out time, whether that is, twice a week, 3 times a week, 7 times a week, and whatever time you're going to spend on it, is specific to skill development. And that doesn't mean, I start shooting around a little bit and, there's a pickup game and I'm done with my workout. You dedicate the time to your skill development. So that's number 1. Number 2, film study. And the film study is going to help you develop your basketball IQ. If you watch a lot of my past videos, we talk about different areas of your basketball IQ that you can pull out of film. In fact, just last week, we were talking about going off of 1 foot versus 2 and how that affects your game. Well, film study is great for basketball IQ development, and that's what I want you to do. You might think to yourself, but, I watch film during the season, or maybe you don't. But film, you don't have to watch your games. You could pull up some of your old games. Pull up some high school games from online. Pull up some college games online. These are great areas to watch, and watch for specific things, whatever it is you're trying to study that day as far as your basketball IQ. Maybe it's shot selection and critiquing shot selection. Maybe it is 1 foot versus 2 foot jumping and who's in control versus not in control. It can be any number of things, but dedicate some time this offseason to film study. So we've got some dedicated time to skill development. We've got some dedicated time to film study. What is the third area that I want you to dedicate some time to this offseason? Playing without pressure. I talked about this a few weeks ago as well. What do I mean by playing without pressure? Maybe it's an open gym, maybe it's on the playground, maybe it's out with some friends, but I want you to play the game of basketball and use those games to take away the pressure of playing time, coaches, fans, all those pressures, and just play and use this time of playing as your laboratory for trying out the things that you're working on in your skill development and trying out the things that you're developing with your basketball IQ. So find some time to just play basketball without it being a competition, an AAU competition, a specific practice, without coaches, without fans, and take that pressure off and start trying out new things, pushing yourself a little bit. Does this work? Does this work? Does this work better? Great opportunity. So dedicate some time this summer to play without pressure. The fourth area that I want you to dedicate time to. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff, but if you want to be a great player, this is what you need to do. Strength and conditioning. Do you have a strength and conditioning program that you do? Do you know areas of your strength and conditioning that you need to come back next year? Maybe you need to come back physically stronger to finish through contact. Maybe you're going up a level and you need to be stronger. Maybe you need to be in better shape, better cardiovascular shape. Maybe you couldn't make it, 5 minutes in a game without asking for a sub because you couldn't, go into a game. You know your body better than anyone, and you know the areas that you can use as far as strength and conditioning in order to work on. But that's just an area. I'm not going to get into specifics of what to work on, but you need to dedicate some specific time to strength and conditioning. And then the final area is actually some competition. And maybe you're playing AAU, maybe your high school team is playing in a couple of summer tournaments, maybe you're playing in a league, a summer league, whatever the case might be. But I want you to up your level of competition. If whenever possible, play up. Play with older players. Play with bigger players. Play with stronger players. Play up levels. Why? Because this is the opportunity to get used to playing up, and then it'll make your season that much simpler to, raise your game's level. So I want you to dedicate some time to being competitive and playing in a competitive area, but I also want you to play up. Boost your competition during the off season so that you are ready for next season. So those are the 5 areas that you need to be carving out. You can make your own schedule, carve out, and dedicate time to. Your skill development, your basketball IQ by watching some film, your strength and conditioning, your playing without pressure, and playing in a competitive environment where you play maybe up a level. So simple stuff, but a great time, like I said, coming out of this July 4th weekend next week. Evaluate what you've been working on and what you need to work on for next season. This is a great place for a reset. Always appreciate the likes and comments. If you know somebody who could use this messaging, please forward this video on to them. And until I see you next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.